What?
Yeah. All right, we are live. We are 4 seconds in, so they probably caught that what, and they probably don't even understand what you're referring to. So, anywho, welcome everyone. Tonight is Tuesday. You know what time that is? It's Tuesday evening. And if you follow us, then you know it's time for Good Questions, Bad Answers. It's a show where we come here weekly. We have a conversation about whatever we want to talk about. Sometimes we have topics, sometimes we don't. But if you're spending your evening with us this evening, we greatly appreciate it. So if you have a question and you want to say hello and tell us where you're watching from, we'd appreciate it. My name is Joshua Jack, and my co-host
Tim Izzo.
And yeah, we're just happy to be here. You know, because like I said, this show is all about conversation. And you know, if we as a nation don't have conversations, we're in for a bad time. So you know, and that's what this is about. This isn't a political leaning show, although we will probably touch on different politics and different thoughts and different things that are on our minds, because Lord knows there's a lot of things going on in the world today. And if you want to talk about that, that's great. If you have a question, we're going to give you a bad answer. Actually, everything here is going to be bad, but just know that we mean it sincerely. All right.
That's what counts.
That's right. Justin says hello. Hey, Justin, man, I'm glad you're Justin. Here. As always, Justin, man, I appreciate you, man. You're always here, and thank you so much for that. That really means that's humbling, and thank you. So for this week, what is there to discuss? It's not like anything's going on in the world today.
No, it's pretty boring.
I mean, you know,
ordinary week.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh, by the way, I found this shirt in my storage, and because I've been this past week, I had a little bit of downtime, so I'm like, you know, I need to clear out my storage space. So that's what I did, and I have a bunch of airsoft stuff. Have you ever played airsoft?
I've never played it. Always wanted to, though.
Right. Well, about 10 years ago, 13. Well, yeah, about 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I was going to start an online airsoft business. And because I got back from Afghanistan, I'm like, hey, you know, this would be a great way I can teach. It's a safe way I can teach people how to use or utilize their weapons. And, you know, and professional airsoft gun. Well, when I say professional, better, these aren't your Walmart brand airsoft rifles, you know? So I bought, you know, I spent, you know, a couple $1,000s on inventory, and then it failed miserably. It failed beautifully miserable, you know? You know, I learned a lot in the process.
I was gonna say, did you learn a lot?
Yeah, I learned a lot in the process, and I still have the inventory, which I kind of need to get rid of. But anyway, it's been in storage, and I was going through it all because, you know, I've moved across the country a few times, and I found this shirt, and this is like my favorite. This brand, you can't find them anymore. It's called No Star T-shirts, and this says, oh, and by the way, if you're listening to this on podcast, thank you so much for being here, and if you're watching this on YouTube in the future, thank you. But anyway, so it has a graphic of life with horns coming out of the L, and then below it says, grab it by the horns. And that's so true in life. You know, life is, you got to grab it by the horns and ride it. And so anyway,
Absolutely.
no star T-shirts. I really liked their shirts for the longest time, but now they're nowhere. Like, I can't find them. Yeah. They I guess they went out of business or something, but man, they had some of the funniest shirts that you had to have a little bit of brain power to get. You know, like
a little thought provoking.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like there's another shirt that I have by them, and it had like a you know, because a murder of crows, right? So so if you call, you know, a group of crows together is called a murder, and so it had a graphic of crows, and inside the graphic it had murder. So at first glance, people are like, "What?" And they're like, "Oh, okay, I get it." You know, so you know, it was kind of like little spoof shirts, things like that. But I think they got political. And I think they kind of went off the deep end. So I don't know. So if you're No Star T-shirts, or you know them personally, let them know that they have an irate customer, because I'm really sad that they don't have their T-shirts anymore. So
when did you try to open your airsoft company?
Back in 2008, 2009. Wow. Yeah, no, it was really good before Amazon ruined it.
Maybe that's what happened. I was gonna say, like, I remember around that exact same time, like, a lot of people I knew, all different ages, were really into airsoft.
Right.
Like smaller portion were into paintball, but a lot of people were right into airsoft, and so I'm kind of surprised. I feel like you had the timing right, but maybe I'm just not in that
Well,
demographic anymore. I don't know, but
the problem I had was I didn't know the who's,
that'll do it.
and I thought I had to do everything myself, and it failed. It was all on me, and I did. And then at that time, I got a job opportunity, and when I got that job opportunity, it's another opportunity came along, and then enthusiasm and everything just kind of fell by the wayside. And Amazon wasn't really where it was today. So I had my own website. I had my own like shopping, not Shopify, but I was doing it all on my own. Like I was hiring, doing all these different little things, and I didn't realize that instead of buying like a bunch of one item, I was thinking of a consumer. I was buying one of this and one of that and one of, and I was like, so in retrospect, I spent all that time and effort making, like listings for one item, and then and then the amount of money or the amount of inventory that I needed for it to go out wasn't enough to. It was a big learning curve for me, and I totally went south. But hey. you gotta roll the dice, because when you do things like that, you do learn a lot in the process. Patrick says, "Yo, Patrick, thank you so much for being here."
That's a tough. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was
gonna say it's a tough crossroad that you came to, or like here you are with this opportunity that could make you more money than a job, but then you also got offered a job, and it's like, do I go for the steady cash flow of a job, that like there's some safety in, or do I keep trying to build this and work through all the problems that I'm coming to? It's a tough crossroad.
Well, it's true. You have the stability on one hand, but then you also have freedom on the other, and when you have, in my case, a government job, which is pretty stable, you don't have to worry about, you don't have to worry about so much. And at that time, it was a government job that came through, and that's when I was like, okay, and it paid pretty well. So it wasn't one of those things where, yeah, exactly. It was one of those things where my pain point wasn't strong enough to keep going with it, and then I kind of got out of airsoft because when I had to move for the position, I didn't know the community anymore. So the community that I had where I was living at the time was a great community. There was a ton of great people there, and I had a lot of friends in that community. And then when I moved, I was working shift work. I was going all over the place, and it just once things changed, I just lost my interest, and that's really the problem with a lot of the things that we do in life. Sometimes we start with a lot of enthusiasm for whatever, and then sometimes we almost have to find our way again, or like
absolutely.
There's these cycles that we get in, and then eventually we find ourselves right back at square one. So I just kept going, like. Even if I had just kept going, back then, instead of, went cold turkey, had I kept on slowly building it, who knows what it could have been. I mean, because I had access to the suppliers that I can't get now because of all the Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon, all these, because it takes relationships, right? And had I nurtured that relationship over the past 10 years, they would have been totally okay with selling me inventory, because they know that I'm a known quantity at that point. But to start all over again now, I'm an unknown quantity, and so therefore they may or may not want to work with me. And the problem is, and we've talked about this before, especially when it comes to Amazon businesses, is there's a lot of people that don't know how to run the business properly, so they shoot themselves in the foot as well as shooting everybody else in the foot at the same time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is the bane of me with Amazon.
I'm sure you have plenty of stories, and that's right. And Chris, he wants to say this. Chris says we have to constantly reinvent ourselves. That's true. We do.
Absolutely.
Because as we grow in life, that's and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about last week, or maybe the week before last. The more you learn, the higher on that tree, whatever it is, whether it be personal growth or professional development or whatever, the more you learn, you have to have a love for learning. regardless of what it is. And then, you know, as you come up with new ideas or broaden your horizon or your spectrum or whatever, you start seeing things in a different light. So there's that. And we have a special gift for Chris. This show is brought to you by Oasis Preferred Maintenance. Don't worry, he's just as surprised as we are about this. And for those of you that have an ice machine or you're interested in clean water at your own house, be sure to reach out to Oasis Preferred Maintenance, and they'll be more than happy to clean your water system or whatever. So whether it be for commercial and restaurants or for residential, if you live in the Pensacola area, be sure to reach out to Oasis Preferred Maintenance. That is oasispmpro.com. So thank you for that. That's right, Chris. This show is brought to you by Oasis Preferred Maintenance. Thank you so much for that. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them, because Lord knows we can't, we can't do this show without you, because this show is for you.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing, guys. This show was a last minute thing 10 weeks ago. This is episode 10, which is
crazy.
Yeah, I know. And it's grown a little bit. I know, right? Time this year is going by so quickly.
It really is.
But like I said, this show is it's obviously entertainment, but it's for you to ask questions, and we'll try to answer them as best we can, or have a conversation. And so if you want to talk about anything, regardless of what it is, and if it gets too weird, then we'll change the topic. All right. Yeah, there's our banner. Ask some questions, get some maybe okay answers. So I have to apologize for those of you that are watching this. For those of you that are listening on podcasts in the future, you're not seeing me sweat. CrossFit is now back in session, and I just got done quickly, and now I took a shower as soon as I got home, but I'm still in this, and it's so humid here in Louisiana that I still got the sheen of sweat even after I've took a shower and everything.
It's one of the worst things, because you finally just got yourself all clean, and then you re-sweat again, and it's just you start feeling gross again. But I totally get that. We get a lot of humidity here in New York, and I get the same kind of thing that goes on when I take late showers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. So
who's got some questions?
I don't, because if we can't answer, the Magic 8 Ball can. So all right, well, let's talk about what is going on in the world today. There's a lot of things going on in the world today. Okay, Justin says this. Who do flat earthers think put them in the dome? It's funny. Most of the... I don't even really know enough to take it seriously. And obviously I don't take it seriously. And that's the problem, is I don't, and that actually brings up a good conversation. Like, at what point do you stop ridiculing people and you actually start listening to what they have to say?
That's a valid point. Yeah.
And the flat earthers is one, if they want to have that opinion, whatever. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the problem that we're getting to today in this world is we're not allowed to have opinions. We are in such a weird state that, yes, they do. Justin says they take, who do you know, Justin? Do you know someone that is a flat earther? I do. And so that's why I really don't want to
wow.
I really don't want to, I really don't want to get into it, because I don't want to I don't want to insult them, because I love them, but at the same time, it's just I disagree with them wholeheartedly.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's and that's why I'm really kind of a big proponent, no matter what we talk about, because I don't want this to get into a, I don't want this show to get into
shaming anybody.
Exactly. I don't want anybody to feel ashamed for whatever they believe, whether they, whether it's mainstream or not, I guess. I don't know. Mine definitely does. So Patrick Stone says this: opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one, and yours stinks. That's right. And Justin watched a document. You know, I think I work. You know, I have worked for the government, and although. You know, we also have our tinfoil hat time here, which for those of you that don't know, tinfoil hat time is actually this whole show is tinfoil hat time. You know, there's really no set tinfoil hat because, you know, this is a safe place for us to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And it could be weird stuff like, you know, flat earth or government conspiracies or whatever. But after my experience working for the government, people can't keep their mouth shut. So
yeah.
I really have a hard time believing that people are in on it. You know, like, oh my gosh, you know. So I have issues with those.
And you worked for the government, and I think that if it was, because if it was true that the Earth is flat, that's such a relevant piece of information. I feel like it would be incorporated into what the government does. How, like, you know, they map out things and do certain things because they can't afford to make that mistake. You know,
right? I mean, there's too many people involved. There's too many people, like, you know, I mean, even and too many not non-government entities that are interested in doing this too. Like, you know, haha, say it ain't so. Right. I don't know what you're referring to. I can have an idea, but but no. I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you know, now you have companies like private companies going into space, and it's like, okay, you know, if we can't agree on something in this world or even in the United States, I mean, Lord knows you can't have that many people agree and agree to keep it a secret. I mean, heck, we can't keep some of our confidential stuff secret. I mean, absolutely. You know, it might be on Hillary's email server in her basement. I don't know, you know.
I don't know you know what necessarily schools teach or don't teach, but I want to say it was in earth science. We learned like how people figured out that it wasn't flat, and the theory was that like if a boat is going off into the horizon, it looks like it sinks, which is why it's going around the world. And it's like, you know, if it was flat, it would just be saying the same thing and slowly disappear into a dot, not look like it's sinking.
Right.
And eventually, you know, it made sense to me when someone said that. I was like, yeah, that's exactly how you know,
and the same thing, and the same thing here in New Orleans. And in fact, north of New Orleans, there's a large lake called Lake Pontchartrain, and they have a bridge that's like, I'm going to be an idiot now because I don't know how far it is, but I think it's like 26 miles. Lake Pontchartrain Bridge length. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. So yeah, so it's 28 and a half miles across this lake. And you can see coming into New Orleans, you know, it starts to, you know, the curvature of the earth, you start seeing it more and more. Yeah. But they say the schools are in on it. You bet they are. Because that amount of cohesion that it takes to have that, I'm sorry, human behavior, it just doesn't work. It just does not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think that's whatever. What else? Oh, so going back to opinions, you know, I wrote something on Facebook earlier this week about any conversation that starts off with demands is no longer a conversation. Yeah. And the problem that we're having, that I think we're having in society today, is we don't care about having the serious conversations. And people only want to see parts that they want to see. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the backfire effect. You know, like you kind of gravitate towards what you're interested in, and anything that comes across, you know, it's almost like an attacking thing. And now it's getting to the point where even if you disagree, people call you names and then they want to destroy your life.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you seen people like get doxxed or whatever? Like, oh, well, this person said this, so let's go ahead and most sane people would be like, okay, that guy's an idiot. They don't need any more energy than me scrolling past. But some people get so fixated on this person says this. Well, let's go ahead and light them up. Let's go ahead and tell everybody where. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, Drew, and that's another thing. That's another thing that kind of makes me little frustrated. So Drew Brees this past week, which I don't follow sports, it's just not one of my big things. But he says he doesn't kneel for what? Justin, if you wouldn't mind writing out a little synopsis, and that way I would appreciate it, or I can look it up. But basically, he said something that really made a lot of the Black Lives Matters folks, or the people that kneeled, made him mad, and so it caused a great backlash. And guess what he did? I think he retracted what he said, and I'm like, that's unfortunate, because he should be allowed to have an opinion too. We should all be allowed to have an opinion, and I think people are getting tired of the two-facedness that we see in society today, and we all see it.
Yeah.
And we can be for like I totally believe Black Lives Matter, but I don't believe in Black Lives Matter movement, if that makes sense, because some of the stuff that I just don't agree with. Like I'm not for socialism, and I'm not for, and someone listening to this will probably be like, well, they're not about that. Well, okay, but from what I've read and seen, they kind of are, and it's just interesting to me that if you try to bring up different conversations or different aspects of different things, people want to shut you down completely, and they don't even want to hear to what you have to say. And that's a problem, because at one point we were civilized and we could actually talk about such things in an adult manner. And now everything is like, no, you're not allowed to do that. And that's not what America's founded on. I mean, it's freedom of speech. And granted, I understand that there's consequences of freedom of speech, but there's also common sense too. Like, the silent majority, he will never. Okay, so he said he will never agree with anyone who's disrespecting the flag, which I totally support, 100%. And then I believe that he was made to walk back on that, and I think that's unfortunate. And the problem is whenever you capitulate. Okay, so it reminds me of this, and I'm not saying this is as big or as bad as all this other stuff, but human behavior and here again, we're getting into some deep stuff here. Feel free to throw some comments, and but when you capitulate like that, let's say that Chris says people get offended real easy nowadays, and it's really easy to screw yourself and real hard to unscrew yourself. Now remember, this show is brought to you by I'm joking. No, but no, you're right. People get offended, and we have the cancel culture, and that's not what. I mean, if they really want to have a cancel culture, well then, and here again, this is kind of going a little extreme, but if we're going to live in a civilized society, but yet we allow barbarian acts to go, well, that's not what this was founded on. And sometimes I feel like we should bring back. Yeah, exactly. Pace high school teacher is in trouble right now, which is the high school I went to. I don't know exactly what she said, but it was kind of like, oh, I wouldn't have said that. But here again, it's interesting how you take one snippet that someone says, and good or bad, and I'm saying like we all do it. I'm not saying that what she said was right or wrong, but we tend to judge that person's life off that little tweet. We don't know her. I don't know her. I don't know who she is. But we do this all the time in different things. Like, and all of a sudden, it's like this person needs to lose their job. They need to lose their livelihood, instead of like, well, why did she say that? What made her think that? Or what made her, whatever, and, I don't know, man. And I feel like I'm hogging the conversation. Dude, feel free to hop in.
This is great. Because I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. You're spot on. So keep going.
Oh, if anybody wants to join us, we do have the invite. You can hop on this chat with us, and we can go down that road together. I don't know. It's going to be on the Good Questions, Bad Answers page, I think. I don't know if it's going to. I don't know if that link is on my personal page. But feel free to hop on, and we'll bring you on and we can talk about it. Or if you have a question, be sure to use the comments. So going back to here again, I do believe that there should be consequences of actions. And if someone disagrees, it's almost taking it too far. And what I mean is like, people can't see. There's a myriad of thoughts, and it's kind of confusing. But if we want to live a civilized life, then we have to ask the tough questions in order to maintain that civilization. And if we want to just sling mud or under the guise of freedom of speech, well, I think there should be recourse for that. And used to be the recourse was, okay, well, let's meet outside. We'll take 6 paces and we'll turn and we'll see who's right and who's not here anymore. and sometimes as uncivilized as that is, that's almost more civilized than what we see nowadays, of just destroying someone's life or going off these weird tirades. And mental illness is real. That's a huge thing too. And like I said, I'm kind of going off on rabbit trails here, and I don't. Remember, guys, this is a bad answer show, so don't. Whatever. And these are my personal opinions. These aren't the opinions of anybody else. So. I don't know. So what else? What else is out there? What else is So going back to society and two-facedness, like I said, we see corruption, or we perceive corruption, and it's not being addressed, right? We see it from the top on down. The left see it in the right see it in the left, and are there issues? I'm sure there are issues. I am sure that policing, some aspects. My mom's here. She says I'm here now. Thank you so much for being here. I think there are issues, and I think some of those need to be addressed. Like, how do we effectively, because I remember, if I was in a community where I was stopped every day by different police officers because I lived in that community and they were a little bit aggressive in their law enforcement, well, yeah, I'd be upset too. And I totally get that. But at the same time, we got to have the conversation of, okay, so, there's law enforcement and, okay, hold on. Patrick says this. Patrick says, not even that, but used to be, if you had something to say to someone, you would have to say it to them. And always in the back of your mind is a thought, if I say something rude or over the top, I may get punched in the mouth. But now we are all keyboard warriors hiding behind cute profile pics and memes. Well, my profile pic isn't cute at all, so I don't know. But no, but there is a little bit of truth to anonymity. I can't even say that word, anonymity, and we have that through, like I said, through Facebook or through social media. We can say all the things in the world, and it's like all the I can't think straight. Justin says this, what do you think will happen with no police? Now, I have read that, the whole, and here again, media, you don't know what they're really trying to say because, they all have their own spin. And, that's something else I was kind of sharing this week, is people hijacking certain movements to push other agendas onto the United States and the society of the United States, because, like I said, we do believe in certain things, but there are other people out there that don't believe what we believe, and they would love for us to fail. And so the best way to make us fail is to create dissent, create different belief systems, not belief systems as in religion, but different ideals such as socialism or communism or all these other things to kind of make us change the fabric of our society. And when you change the fabric of society, it doesn't mesh anymore. It's like, if you're trying to sew a piece of cotton thread and a piece of polyester thread and you try to make something out of that, it's not going to work because they're two very different things. So, we got to think about that when it comes to society is, for society to work, we have to believe in something. We have to have a unity. We have to work together to have a peaceful society. And it doesn't seem like we're doing that anymore. We're all talking about demands. And then we get with, and then we have, virtue signaling, which makes me kind of frustrated because whenever I see that, all I see is when I see that, it reminds me of people keeping up with the Joneses. But instead of material things, it's, oh, well, they're doing this. Well, I got to do this so I can look good to my peers. Like, look what I'm doing. I'm so special because, I made a stand on Facebook on someone's post. Check your privilege. And I'm like, okay. And here again, I talking about different topics. Really, all it is bullying. It's a segment of bullying, and bullying is wrong, no matter what race you are. And even though, and here again, I wasn't, I don't know. I mean, it's a very convoluted subject. It's a very tough subject.
Absolutely.
And do some people do some people have some real gripe about things? Yes, wholeheartedly. And we need to talk about that. But it needs to be an open conversation and a give and take instead of you will do this, because people don't do well with that. So those of you that are watching, what do you think about that? I could be all on my own here, and I don't know. Oh, by the way, Justin says, what do you think will happen with no police? And I think he's referring to Minneapolis. And what I was going to say is, I've read different articles about, it's not really defunding the police. It's more or less, well, here again, I've read both. Some of them are straight up, hey, we're going to defund police, whatever. They won't rest until police is totally off the streets. And then other aspects are really defunding the police to reorganize or reallocate money to mental health specialists or other not reactions, but other procedures or other ways of handling things instead of sending a police officer to situations, actually having mental health specialists or different things to go respond to whatever. So, but here again, I don't know, because like I said, the media is reporting one thing and this source is reporting something else. So it's kind of hard to find out what's really going on anywhere because
there's always enough ammo on either opinion and either side.
Exactly. So it's somewhere in the middle. So, that's why I try to keep an open mind. I try not to get too, I know I'm conservative and I know I believe certain things, but I always try to at least read something that I don't agree with just to kind of get an idea of what's going on. And then sometimes I'll read stuff and I'm like, oh, that actually makes sense. Okay. Makes sense. But that's just me. So, all right. So, like I said, ask some questions. Let's talk about, Tim, what do you got? The pressure's on.
I hate this pressure.
Yeah. Under pressure. It can be about anything. We don't have to talk about. I don't know. It's confusing. And go ahead.
No, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that we just talked about, because it's such a tough topic that's I can see both sides, and then one side goes a little bit too extreme and it undoes what that opinion does and what they're trying to accomplish, and it's just it's a really tough thing. But I agree with you. I think everybody just needs to be able to have the floor, speak what they want to, and without any kind of aggressive demands or actions. People need to come up with what's a middle ground where everybody can accept, because unfortunately we have to give up some of what we believe in so we can get some of other stuff that we believe in.
Exactly. Where do we compromise for unity?
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. Oh my God.
Oh man, so we'll get to that in a second. Patrick says it's all pandering. I have many conversations with those who say other agencies should go to situations, and the question I always ask is, how do you know who to send? Yeah, I don't know, because I've been in law enforcement, and situations can change on a dime. Domestic violence can go from, "Hey, honey, we're having a problem," to "I'm going to kill everybody," and and I don't know.
That's why I have so much respect for police officers, because for that like particular reason is a huge reason why I don't want to do it. It's such a you have like a half a second in a lot of cases to decide what is the real intention of what's going on in this situation, and that's why I give them so much credit. They have to make decisions that are tough, and a lot of us don't want to make.
Well, exactly, and I find it kind of ironic. The irony is not lost on me, and here again, I know police officers can take their uniform and they choose to be who they are, but the irony is not lost on me that they're being judged for what they're doing or what they're wearing. You know what I mean? So see the irony there? Like, people are upset because, of racism, and I'm using this in quotations, as well as, but they're making assumptions off people based on what, and we all know that, the police officers, most of them are good people.
Absolutely.
Are there some areas that maybe need work? I'm sure there are, but you can't blame everybody. But something else I find kind of interesting is all, the ones that have the most problems are the ones that are like in the deep. And here again, I don't want to, we're getting political, and I don't want to be that way, but sometimes you do have to bring up some certain things. But I find it interesting that the areas that have the most problems, it seems, are the ones that are Democratic run. That's, it's in a Democratic city by, Democratic mayor, governor. And so you have these issues, and yeah, don't say it. I probably shouldn't. but it's true. And what I find interesting is, so they can't manage very well. And so these problems arise, in my humble opinion, my personal opinion. And then, they ask for more money to continue their problems. And then they get upset. It's like they're sticking a stick through their own spoke. They're like riding a bicycle. You've seen that meme on Facebook from time to time. People are riding their bicycle and they stick, like, "Oh, we're doing this," and then they stick a stick through the front spoke, and then the next image is they're on the ground hurting, and they're like, "Oh." So they do it to them. So in certain situations they do it to themselves, but then they expect all of us to, "Oh, well, they're not the problem. Everybody else is the problem. Oh, and then we must fix the issue everywhere," when everywhere's just fine. It's just, I don't know. And but we're really talking about a couple different things here. And I think the whole issue is getting hijacked by other subversive issues that have nothing to do with the overt one, which everybody's up in arms about. But they're using that to get their point across, if that makes any sense. And Justin says this: "At least the virus is over." I don't, and that's another thing that I just find kind of surprising, because it's like, hey, don't go to church. You can't go to church. You can't congregate with people over 10 unless you're protesting. That's okay. I mean, come on. I find this so, right.
It's kind of crazy too, in the sense that, like, a lot of times, what church, and I'm not trying to get religious or anything, but a lot of times, like, churches will promote that there's a higher power that's there to protect you.
Right.
But yet these people, like, priests, or, they believe in this, but yet they're not believing in their own higher power to protect them during church and all these other things. And it's like, which side?
It's not the church officials, it's the government officials stopping government or church officials from doing that, is what I'm saying.
Would the church be able to override that because it's the religion?
Well, it's constitutional. You should be able to, but but we've had issues, or there's been some, and I'm sure it's going to come up in some lawsuits at some point. Is this whole lockdown? I mean, was there a need for a lockdown in the first place? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And honestly, if this wasn't an election year, would we have all the turmoil that we're having now? And that's what's really that scares me, is because, okay, so November is elections, and I'm going to make a couple predictions, and you heard it here first. So this whole time that we have this thing going on in the nation in the past couple weeks, they have done, and I haven't followed it to a T because it's not on media everywhere, and you actually have to go look for it. But they have started, like the Congress, they've subpoenaed Obama era officials like Hillary and other people about some of the things that they've done. And media is and here again, it's a classic denial and deception campaign. It's all about focusing your ideas over here, so you're not seeing what's going on over here. And so Hillary is supposed to testify in September about that email thing again, and some other things. And so I expect in September something else will happen. And then also, I don't know. Like, I'm really worried, but I think something's going to happen, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I should.
I hope you're wrong too, but
yeah, maybe I shouldn't go.
I get that feeling too. I do get that feeling too.
Yeah, this is like November's elections. What else can they do to throw it off? And when I say they, I don't mean right or left. I mean, but there are forces out there that don't care about the U.S. citizen. They care about their own aims and their own ideals, and they're here to create hate and discontent. So, I expect September there'll probably be a large shooting, maybe a mass shooting, and then in November, if something doesn't because I don't think Biden's going to win, personally, because he's been involved with government for 40 years. Come on, you can't tell me that he has the answer. He's been a part of it for 40 years, and the sad thing is and I'm not saying Trump's great. I'm not saying that at all, but he's a heck of a lot better than Biden. And the sad thing is out of this nation of great talent and smart people, these are the two people that we have. And
right.
You can come at me with a libertarian, but I know they're not going to win either, because if they do, I'll be surprised. And okay, fine, but they're not. And I really wish we as a nation would get away from two parties, because
absolutely. Why not just have it be a person who has the ideals, no matter what it is?
Patrick says this. Always remember, any form of media, book, movie, song, poem, painting, news broadcast, and uploaded camera video is intended to tell a story and take you from point A to point B and have you reach a conclusion the author wants. Take everything now with a grain of salt. And that's marketing. And that's what was supposed to be different between media and marketing. Media or news is supposed to help explain things like, hey, this is what's going on, with objectivity of not getting to one side or another. But now it's like, oh no, I'm writing a persuasive piece, and man, you can tell it right off the bat. See, that's another thing. I don't think people are taught writing. Like, this is a persuasion piece. These words right here make it persuasion or an opinion or whatever. And so people take these different opinion pieces, and then that becomes the God honest truth, because, oh, well, the news said it. No, that was an opinion piece, or that was an editorial. That was not news. That was just someone's idea. And, I think people forget that. I don't know. I just don't know.
I don't know. And it's something to kind of go along with what you're saying about, what might happen in September or whatever. I feel like, some of the parties know what's going to happen in September, so they're also planning a campaign to diminish the damage of it,
right?
Which is going to create a whole nother, ulterior,
right?
And then you got to figure out where the truth is between, those things, and where the diminishing is versus the actual true damage, and it's really hard to sift it out.
I wish there was something out there. And when I say this, I don't mean this as a anti-government thing. But I really wish that every community or every county, and I know some counties have militias, but I don't mean it like militia, like as in, anti-government sovereign citizen. I don't mean that whole like that. I mean, because that is a tinfoil hat thing. But what I wish they had was every community like has some sort of civil defense force. And I'm not saying, teach them combat or military or, not, we're not, they wouldn't be teaching people to flank and destroy the enemy. No, it's all about force protection, making sure that people are safe. So when things kind of, like riots happen or whatever, these volunteers are called in immediately by the county to go protect a town or go protect, this area. And like I said, it'd be a force protection kind of thing. And it's not political. It's not political. It wouldn't be like, and if anybody did try to make it political, well, then they're out of the group. Yeah. The whole point of the civil defense force or whatever would be just for safety or stability. Because, when the police are overrun and they can't, or they're being tapped out or manpower issues, and I know they have auxiliary forces and stuff like that, and I know we have the National Guard, but sometimes, when you take that away. But see, yeah, okay, Rebecca says this, they probably need to be authorized and trained by the government, akin to a volunteer fire department, but would need LEO training, I imagine, consider excessive force by a civilian. Only thing is, though, is like they have things called Civil Air Patrol, or they also have search and rescue outfits that are, done by civilians. And what I would like is for something similar to that, maybe a search and rescue, where in times of trouble, people have the ability to, because we have plenty of veterans, we have plenty of people that actually believe in security. And I'm not saying like go crazy and go shoot people or go enforce the law. No, I'm saying, hey, this is a force protection area. These are our perimeters. If you're not allowed, you're not allowed. And then obviously if they step over that line, then but I equate it to this as in, and people are like, well, are you going to if you bring guns to the situation, it could totally make it worse. But I would say it's almost like a snake, right? If I'm walking down the street and I see a snake in the road, well, I'm going to give it wide berth because I know it can bite me or I know it can hurt me. And the same thing with this is if you have a certain thing there and that, hey, these are what these people are there for, I'm going to go somewhere else. And there's actually been documented even when the riots that we've had the past couple of weeks, we've also seen this happen where people have actually banded together, and even in the 92 riots, you had the Koreans on the rooftop shooting at people. I'm not saying that please understand when I say this, I'm not saying this to be, pro-violent law. No, I'm saying, some of these things get way out of hand and people are getting hurt and the police can't or won't do something about it. And that's what I'm getting tired of. And that's all I'm saying. And so I'm thinking that if a civil defense force, like, my county had one, the next county had one, and it was actually, and I'm saying you would have monthly training, like, okay, this, we're going to meet monthly. This is what we're going to talk about. This is how we're going to do things. And if there are some loose cannons, well, guess what? You're not welcome. And if you become a problem, well, we're going to tell the FBI about you, or we're going to tell the local police about you. This isn't a place for supremacy. This isn't a place for whatever. Everything's would be above board. So, Rebecca, if you want to help me write the bylaws, you can help me do that. She's a lawyer, so I worked with her way back in the day, and she's great. If she's still here, so anyway, that's just my thought. I
think it's a great idea. We need that kind of that difference. That is, what you're saying. It's like, it's not subtle, but it's kind of like subtle, where it's just like, instead of you're protecting things rather than enforcing too much. And I think that that's kind of where we need to go. We need to start trying to protect the people, show that they're being protected.
Yeah. And she says, I was just thinking about legal aspects of training and liability. You're right. But these are things that we need to look at, because, and when I say, a militia or a civil defense force, a well-regulated one, like, hey, yes, we want to do training, and yes, we don't want to have liability issues, but when things do go to crap, like in times of Hurricane Katrina or riots or these other things, these communities can be protected by members of the community, not some faceless. And here again, I know National Guard is, from the community, certain communities, but when they're pulled from all over, sometimes they're unknown, and I think something else that would be good from this would be in that certain neighborhood or that community. Well, that's just Joe down the street, or that's just Martha from, that's my, whatever, it kind of creates that smaller unit where people can trust it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my rear. I don't know. But these are my thoughts.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But this is an echo chamber, so I expect you to agree with me. Oh, wow. So we've talked for about 50 minutes. Like I said, the show is here for you. If you have any questions on this or anything else that we're talking about tonight, we can... All right. So she says this. Rebecca says, so you can prevent people from entering private property. That's a given. It's your property. The level of force allowed is obviously governed by law, but you can do that. Public property is different. Who had the authority to say trespass, warn people? No, yeah, I got it. Yeah. Okay, so you can prevent people from entering. Yes. Okay. It's your property. The level of force allowed is obviously governed by law. But you can do that. Public property is different. But see, and that's the thing. It's like we would have to hash that out. And I would want this to be a government sanctioned thing because I don't want to compete with the government and I don't want to be looked at like, oh, it's those people. Or, because let's face it, whenever I hear militia, I mean, I'm still kind of like, oh, it's those people. No, I don't want to be that way. Oh, it's those preppers. No. It's all about community security. When things are bad, like I said, you have search and rescue outfits out there. You have volunteer firefighters, like we said. Yes, there is a minimal amount of training, and they are there to protect and keep things stable. So when people are getting the crap beat out of them, okay, well, fine. Then we'll step in and here again, this is only like if the police can't handle it, like we've seen, or they won't. And man, and that's kind of tough too because, right. Those outfits have no outfit. Well, maybe we should need. Well, this is what I would like. But I understand where you're coming from, Rebecca, and thank you for chiming in because you deal with laws all the time. What is wrong with peppers? Nothing wrong with peppers. I like green peppers. No, I'm kidding. He meant to say preppers, but there's nothing wrong with preppers. No, Rebecca, she says she'll quit messing with us. No, I really appreciate the conversation because if we can't have conversations like this, then we can't grow. And this is something I would like to see. And most people I talk to would like to see it. And I'm kind of wondering about, okay, what if a community, or let's say a subdivision, what about a subdivision that had like some serious HOA, like homeowners association, like, okay, this is what we believe. This is what we're doing in times, and you signed up for that, and I don't know. There has to be a better way to do it because like I said, back in the day, we did have militias and we did have things like this. And I don't see why we can't do that. We used to, okay. So Patrick says this, we used to have that. We called them police or sheriff's department, but now they've been politicized by mayors and governments and we the people. Oh, and she's a former HOA president over here too. And she's going to tell me no. I'm just joking. But like I said, I mean, there's these, you may have missed it, Rebecca, but if you want to come on here and just talk with us, you can. There's a link. I don't know if you're not on the Good Questions, Bad Answers page. I don't know if this goes to my personal page, but if you go to Good Questions, Bad Answers, there's a link. And if you want to hop on here, you don't have to put your webcam on, but and we can talk. And she has a wealth of knowledge. I mean, she's
I would love that.
She's really
no
good.
pressure.
No pressure. You don't have to. See, that's the thing. People are going to stop like putting an input because they'll be afraid that I might invite them. By the way, everybody that's watching this. If you want to come on, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. This is all about being comfortable and talking about whatever. But like I said, I would like to live in a community like that. If there was a community and they had some serious, like, okay, this is what we believe. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. She says, screaming kids in the background today. Sorry. Well, we'll revisit that some other time when we can schedule a time and we can talk about some of these other ideas. But yeah, I mean, why can't we have something like that? And I understand, I wonder if there is a way. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. But like I said, I would like for it to be a force multiplier, good thing, not something that's anti whatever. That's true. You can privately own the property, gate it, and have your own security.
Yeah.
See, I remember I just saw something this past week, and it was in maybe it was last week too, northern Idaho. Yeah, that's true. We are a litigious society. Rebecca also says, I definitely recommend having excellent insurance if you do. Okay. I remember, I think it was this past weekend, I think it was in northern Idaho where, there was like words, or I guess the news that rioters were coming to this town in northern Idaho. And I can't remember the name of it. I mean, I remember the name, but I can't pronounce it. And I can't remember the name exactly. It was like some French name. And if you live in northern Idaho and you're listening to this, I apologize. But all the people showed up and they were all armed to the teeth. And guess what? There was no problems. There was no problems because everybody's like, okay, we'll go somewhere else. And that's usually what happens. Usually. Unless no one wants to get hurt. Because even if people are in a group and they feel powerful, once they come up against another group, no one wants to lose their life. Mm. But there's always that crazy one that will, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Okay. Well, so if you're a prepper, what's the best thing you can do now? Or okay, let's say this. If anybody is watching this, what do you think we should do now? What are your thoughts? I mean, these are my thoughts. I'm talking, and here again, I could be totally off. What do you think? What do you think about tonight's conversation? And it could be about anything.
I definitely agree that restructuring needs to happen. I don't think it could get any more. I mean, it could get louder, but it's clear that there needs to be more conversation, like you said in the beginning, and just kind of structure things better. There's a lot of people upset, and there's got to be some way to compromise.
Right. But there has to be compromise.
Yeah.
On both
there's
sides.
Going to be exactly
not just one. It can't be one-sided, and that's the issue we have. And I think that's where people are getting kind of that BS meter is like, listen, yeah. So, all right. Well, we are 58 minutes in. I think unless someone has something else to say, because Lord knows I've talked enough tonight. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there was a little bit of entertainment. Okay, so Patrick says this: move to the wilds of Montana, grow a beard, and brew moonshine. I just might. I just gotta find some way to make some passive income to do that. Sell some moonshine, I guess. All right. Well, hey, I think I'm gonna call it. Unless do you have anything that you want to?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Thank you for engaging. Rebecca, thank you. Patrick, and Justin and Jared and Mom and everybody. So thank you so much for being here. And what's up with the Brothers Jack coffee cup? Well, it's not made yet. It's not out yet. In fact, I'm really having troubles with not troubles, but that service that we're using, they're taking their time. And so we're not really pushing Brothers Jack quite yet. We're waiting until they get back on track with because the problem is people are ordering and then they're waiting like a month to get their items. And I don't want that to be I don't want that to be the I don't want people to think about that in Brothers Jack. I want them to be like, oh, that's a great company. I got my products quickly. And due to the COVID stuff, the supplier that does our printing, they're just taking their time. So that's why we haven't really been pushing it so much lately, because I don't want people to have a bad taste about Brothers Jack. So that's why. Okay. Take care. And by the way, if you like this show, be sure to come join us on our Facebook. Go like the page. That's where we do our Facebook Lives, and you can come join us, and we can have a conversation, a civil conversation. And if we disagree, we disagree, and that's fine. It's okay. If you're watching this or if you're listening to this on podcast, we appreciate it. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you like it, be sure to like the page, or like I can't even talk. My goodness, like the video. And as always, we appreciate you watching. We do care about you. And like I said, any questions you have, be sure to or a topic that you want to discuss, be sure to reach out to us at not mine, goodquestionsbadanswers@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to talk about that topic or talk about anything that you'd like to talk about. All right, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless. Tim, do you have anything?
No, see you guys. Thank you for all the engagement. We'll see you next week.
Take care.